It would be great to have a Bokoblin kill you and then, like, rank up to the next color.
I killed Link, I'm now going to change my entire being. Bokoblin is evolving, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the HGO podcast. I'm your host today, Ethan, and joining me, as always, are my good friends Kyle.
Hello.
And Hunter. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just swell.
I feel like I'm extremely zoomed in compared to you two. Should I just sit back in my chair just a tiny bit? Because I feel like I'm a bit zoomed in. But no, it's good to be here, I guess. It's 1 week till Reckoning. Rebirth is here in 1 week, ladies and gentlemen.
Forget everything you know.
Forget everything you know. Also, don't read any of those reviews. Who are those schmucks? I haven't played the game. I can't trust them. You should only be trusting us. That's all that matters. It feels
honestly wasn't expecting the reviews to start coming out for that game already.
Oh, they were confident.
I didn't realize that it was gonna drop so early too.
But I just didn't realize they'd be a week in advance.
I heard rumors.
I think 16 had the early reviews that way too, though. So I guess it shouldn't have put me off so much.
I'd heard rumblings that review code had gone out. I knew that it was about. When was the embargo? It was about 2 weeks before. Like, people had got like the really early review code, which is interesting, which is usually a good sign. So I was like, okay, rumors and rumblings, and obviously from the Meta critic score, the open critic score, seems pretty all right. Seems like at least one of us in this podcast is going to enjoy it, and we know which one it will definitely be. So let's find out what the other 50/50s will be next week, I guess.
I can't wait.
It has been interesting though.
Kyle, I heard there's a card game.
Is it Triple Triad?
Yeah, allegedly it's better.
Oh, good.
There's no such thing.
That is, it's a myth.
No.
If there is, it's an absolute myth. But yeah, it's been interesting because I heard obviously there's the review scores. Everyone's a bit very positive, but there was a lot of mixed reactions in those reviews where it was like the things that were bringing it down points for one person was completely different for the other. It was very interesting. We'll get into it in a bit. But it stemmed the conversation, really, is the big difference between Remake and Rebirth is that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is open world, which is obviously completely different to the Remake, which was the original, which was completely linear for the most part. So we thought we'd do a bit of a discussion on what makes a good open world, what makes a bad open world, why do we like open world games, why do we hate them. So we're going to talk all about it this week, because your other option was yet another podcast talking about Helldivers 2, which, did you really want that? I mean, not really. I've got nothing to add about I've been playing Helldivers 2, and if you want my opinion on it, it's pretty good. If you've got some friends that are playing Helldivers 2, you'll probably have fun. If you play that game solo, absolute maniac. There's no fun to be had there. Like, why would you play a co-op game by yourself? Like, that's just like
for democracy, Ethan.
For super democracy. Thank you very much.
I need if this meme doesn't exist yet, I need someone doing like the Obi-Wan screenshot from Revenge of the Sith, but like in some kind of get up from that game.
I did see a very funny one where it was it was just like a clip from a film or whatever, where it was like when dropping in the Hell Pod isn't quick enough for democracy, and it's just two people jumping off the spaceship straight to Earth.
Erica Lindbeck posted a reel of like her lines in the game, and they were delivered hilariously.
Yeah,
like tonally, this game is spectacular. I remember.
From a tone point of view, I am absolutely loving Helldivers. It's very funny.
Yeah,
it's a great game to play with friends. If you have some friends that are into PvE games like that, it's quite a fun time to be had. Really, I'm having quite a good.
I played a little bit of the first one back in the before times, and that was fun enough, but I don't have like super vivid. I remember it being like, oh, ha, 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 you plant a turret down and it kills everything that moves, not just the enemies.
It's good fun. I'd highly recommend it if you're into that kind of thing. And it's good for the team at Arrowhead, you know, good for them. This little studio of 100 people who were definitely not expecting a game like this to do this well I mean, it's a shock to everybody. Me and Kyle were like, who made a lol for the past 3 months whenever Helldivers 2 was brought up. So to see it have reached the point where they need to have servers manage 800,000 concurrent players is absolutely
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, it's nice to see because I knew it was gonna, prob. I knew that there were gonna be people who liked it. I didn't realize that it was gonna blow up to be the internet's favorite
The
thing
slam
for
dunk that it
these past
was,
couple of
yeah.
weeks. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, it's just really good to see, Yakuza, sorry, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Persona 3 Reload, Grand Blue Fantasy, Helldivers 2, all do fantastic. And then, like, the couple of games that have been chasing the live service model bullshit that is, like, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, absolutely plummeting. I am very happy about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
My one pro about Helldivers 2 is it feels like a PS3 Xbox 360 multiplayer game. And what I mean by that is there are microtransactions in it, but it's literally like, hey, you want that armor? It costs $2 or something like that. It's not like ridiculous $30 skins or all that jazz. It literally is just
$10 to make your character purple.
it's literally just give us money, play a fun PvE game. Like it feels
Yeah.
like an old multiplayer game, and I absolutely love that, which is great. Sorry, Suicide Squad. Maybe next time. Here's a tip
He's
from
not
me.
that sorry.
Warner Brothers, I'll give you this
Probably
one for
won't.
free. Let Rocksteady make a single player game again. Oh, you can have
Yeah.
that one. Take it to the bank. You'll make some
Think
money.
about it.
I'll be there. Fuck it.
They'll let them get to they'll let it go gold and then they'll cancel it for a tax write-off.
It's true. It's true.
Mm.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Warner Bros. And their shitty practices. Let's talk about open worlds. Which, to be fair, Warner Bros. Has made a couple of those, so we can talk about their shitty practices if we want to.
Yeah.
Open worlds. I feel like if you listened to this podcast before, get ready for another fucking rant. If you haven't listened to this podcast before, then I feel like we should probably start off with where we stand. So, I don't know. Who would you think? Well, Kyle, I know that you are the lowest on the appreciation of open world games. If we're going on a scale,
Professional
I know that Kyle
hater.
is a hater. You don't like open world games, Kyle. I think that's fair to say.
I like them when they're done well.
When are they done well,
And
though?
I think it actually suits the gameplay. I think, yeah, they're pretty good.
Can you give a couple of examples of open world games you like?
Tears of the Kingdom and Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Okay. Cool.
Hmm.
Hunter, between you and me, who do you think is more positive about open world games? Because I think this is interesting. Because here's the thing:
I don't know.
I've probably
if
played the most. I've probably played the
You've
most.
probably
open world
played
games.
more. I just
Yeah.
don't. My enjoyment of the thing probably isn't super contingent on whether or not it is open world, because like what I do with these games is I just kind of pick the things I want to do and then I do those, and if they're not interesting, I don't do them.
Well, you see, I am a little goopy goblin gamer where I see an open world, I see a Ubisoft open world, and I see 6 bajillion things to do, and I go, time to waste all my time on that bad boy, which is why I'm kind of not looking forward to Rebirth in some ways, because I think the one thing I garnered from Rebirth was a load of people saying, hey, if you're a goopy goblin gamer, don't do all the side stuff before the next main quest because there'll be too much stuff and you'll be sick of it. And I was like, oh no, that's how I play these games. No. So, yeah, I feel like I loved open world games for a long time. I still do like open world games. But I think my issue with open world games just stems from burnout, where it's like I've done open world games. I've played every mainline Assassin's Creed game, for better or worse, and it's like I don't need to do another one.
That's a great example of me just doing the things that I want to do. Like, you know what? You want to know how much of the map was even visible when I finished that game? Not a lot. I didn't even climb that many towers.
Whereas I have to, the kind of person I am, the first thing I do whenever I go to a new place is I need to synchronize every tower before I even start looking at missions or whatever.
See, I did the assassin contracts for the Dosh, and that was about it.
Yeah, well, not a real open world gamer, Hunter. You're not a true gamer.
No.
But to
But I
your
thought,
point, Ethan, like I do think that like the oversaturation of open world games, where it seems like that's what every company wants to do nowadays, it's just like it just gets tiring after a while.
yeah, and I mean, I think when open worlds were reserved for RPGs mostly, I think it was perfectly fine. Like, I feel like, when I think of old Elder Scrolls games, or I think of Fallout 3, Fallout 4, New Vegas, all those kinds of things, open worlds in that regard make 100% sense to me. And even old school Assassin's Creed, those kind of sandbox open worlds where they were relatively, by today's standards, pretty small, were,
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed was effectively like 3 small playgrounds. Like, Assassin's Creed 2 was literally just like,
with a bunch of nothing in between if you
yeah,
didn't want to fast travel.
exactly. You literally went to the edge of Venice in Assassin's Creed 2, and all it would do was bring up a menu going, okay, do you want to go to Florence, Tuscany, or wherever? Like, there wasn't an in between. It was just, which city do you want to go to? Stuff like that. I think it was fine. I think it's the expansion of open worlds that I really don't gel with, is how g- games have gotten bigger, but the substance hasn't gotten bigger. Like modern
Mhm.
Assassin's Creeds, there's more content in Elder Scrolls in like in Skyrim's open world. There's more content in Skyrim's open world than there is in a modern day Assassin's Creed, and his modern day Assassin's Creed's map is 10 times the size, and it's all fucking fluff. And it's
Yeah,
like
it's
that's
like they're
my
10 times as big, but they're still just doing do the assassin
The bare
contracts and
minimum.
the
climb
checkbox,
stuff,
the checkbox.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that all mean about the same thing. That's one of the things that Spider-Man 2 did recently, where it got me to do more of their activities by just attaching a little bit of a through line with the stories
Mhm.
than the first one did, because I'm like, what do I care about Taskmaster being stupid? I don't. He's a bush league villain in the first place. I'm not gonna engage with him.
And I mean, I get that, in old Assassin's Creeds, right? You have the stupid, everyone's like Petruchio's feathers, everyone clown on Petruchio's, all 100 Petruchio's feathers. When
Yeah,
you look at it now, and you look at modern day Assassin's Creeds, and the
that's mild.
in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I think there's something ridiculous like over 2,000 collectibles for you to pick up by the end of it.
Never.
You're like,
That is
oh,
simply too many.
why do you need to pick up Petruchio's feathers in Assassin's Creed 2? Are you doing it for your mum to help pay respects to your brother who's passed away? And there's a logical reason for it. And in the animus logic, there's, oh, we need to unlock this memory, and this is the only way to do it. So it's like, okay, there's a through line here with all the narrative. In Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Assassin's Creed Origins, there's each region has 100% taskbar or whatever, and if you fill all the tick boxes or whatever, you conquer the region or you've got 100% completion. Why in from a lore perspective am I going around ticking these boxes? There's not really anything. I'm just doing this to satisfy Ubisoft's needs, basically, of what they want from me. And it doesn't really do anything for me. But I wanted to start this. We can talk about plenty of bullshit later. Let's talk about what we love about it. What open world games have done right, and why I think open world does suit quite a few games, to be honest. Because I feel like there is still innovation to be had. I feel like
Yeah.
the two most recent examples are obviously, well, I say recent, fucking ancient at this point, but Breath of the Wild 7 years ago, like, kind of crazy. But then more recently, Elden Ring. I feel like there's more. I feel like in the past 5 to 7 years, we've gone through, at least with some developers, moving towards open worlds being more about exploration and discovery rather than checkboxes, which I think works well for most games. I feel like you have a couple of games like Ghost of Tsushima that hide checkboxes behind this idea of discovery, which is another issue, where it's just
Yeah.
like, we're just
Yeah.
not going to show you the checkboxes. Find the checkboxes yourself. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
discover the check boxes.
I feel like that's worse, because now I just
And
got to
You
it's
don't
find
even
like
where the
know what you're
foxes
looking
are.
for.
it's like technically speaking, even Breath of the Wild still had some of the, like, you could be like, oh, you've still got your towers and you've still got the shrines, and then if you're a psychopath, you've got the Koroks.
Hmm.
But, like, I was perfectly okay with that, because it presents that to you at the beginning. It kind of lays out everything that you can do, and you decide how much you want to do of it as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
100%.
And the exploration in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is actually it feels interesting to take part in.
Yeah.
That's
Like
yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom, especially when you with the building mechanics, you just
The
build
world
your flying machine.
the world's a playground is
Yeah.
what's fun about those games. Same with Elden Ring. Go back to Elder Scrolls. Todd, you haven't changed shit in the past 10 years. Like, let's be real here. Starfield is still a fucking Xbox 360 game. It's why I liked it. But, you know, there's not been that much innovation there. But the thing about Bethesda's worlds that they did so well was they are just playgrounds. They are just places to mess around in. If you want to go and kill every fucker in the world, even quest givers to some extent, go do it. Go, world's your oyster, right? And I like that kind of style of open world where it is just it's a playground. Go and have fun. Go and have we're not gonna sit here and go okay, but have you done every single fucking viewpoint, mate? Have you done it? Have you synced
Mhm.
everything, all that jazz? Have you found every fox that you can find on the map? No, I don't care. Do you want to go and scream Fuss Rodar at every civilian and watch them fall off cliffs? Yes, I would very much like that. Thank you very much. Why is this Khajiit trying to steal my shit again? I don't want this. It's stupid stuff like that. I feel like to make an open world successful, and open worlds that I feel are very successful, you almost have to treat the open world as a character in itself. I feel like that's what really helps. I feel like Hyrule in Breath of the Wild very much feels like a character of that game, wherever you are, it
Yeah,
feels like
like
the regions are different, like you're
the world
everywhere.
itself has a story that, is there to be discovered.
The lands between Elden Ring. I didn't jive with a lot of Elden Ring. I liked Elden Ring, but half
Something
the
around
time I
every
just wanted to go
corner.
in I wanted to go straight on. Fuck off, is there something around every corner? Jason Schreier, I'll hold you to that forever.
Hunter, no,
There
that's
was
Ethan's trigger phrase.
It is. It's the trigger phrase. It's the what. Like, I really like Jason Schreier's work, but that's the one line where I'm like, pass me my
I like his
pitchfork.
journalistic
There
work. I
was
think his opinions on
yeah.
games kind of bad.
Pass me my pitchfork. I'm not letting Jason live with that. There's something around every corner. The first corner I went to, there was fuck all, and I was like, aha, a lie. But the lands between. It's such a fucking interesting world. Like, don't get me wrong. I was having this conversation with a friend earlier where I was like, I think Elden Ring loses in replay value a lot because in Bloodborne, it's a straight path, right? But the fun is doing different builds and stuff like that. Whereas for Elden Ring, if you want to do a certain build or something like that, and you just want to, it just means you have to go onto Google and find the fucking perfect plot of where, because you don't want to do every dungeon again every time. Like, it's just not
Yeah.
interesting.
Right.
So you just want to beeline to get the same shit that you want to do the same thing. It's more steps to just play a linear FromSoft game, essentially, when you want to replay it. But the lands between as a character, when you're first exploring it, I still think back to that first moment. Hunter, I don't know if you got this far in the game, but you know what? It's been 2 years. Catch up. Where you open that trap chest and it teleports you to the side of
Oh
the
yeah, I
map,
got
and
teleported
Mhm.
to Ohio.
you get teleported to Ohio, and you're like, man, this is a big world. And then you get to another trap chest, and it sends you north, and then it makes the map look fucking tiny. You're like, oh no, this map's huge. Just every area you go to, right? Whether it is just Limgrave, it's just kind of miserable, depressing nature, to going
That whole
over to
underground area with like the starry sky.
Oh yeah, the elevator that went on for 7 years.
Yeah.
the whole underground world to you've got the desolated ruins area with all the dragons and all the the crumbling architecture all around it. Sorry, I'm not a big Elden Ring lore. I don't know the names of everywhere, right?
Oh,
Or
same.
What's the official scientific name of the goats that roll around?
I have no clue. I forgot, but they're great. I love them
Roly
quite a
Yeah.
bit.
polies.
Or just I think that it's just like even make everyone loves talking about Melania, but it's like even that area and trying to get into Melania as a final boss or whatever, as the hardest boss, you have to go on like a 5-hour detour just to find the area that she's in and stuff like that. And I'm like, that stuff is so interesting and brilliant that it's like it makes it feel like it's worth exploring Elden Ring to go and find these places because you know in any other Ubisoft game you'd explore this little winter snowy area for what? Oh, well done. There's like one boss and there's a fucking viewpoint. Congratulations, you explore that area. Good job, everybody. In Elden Ring, it's like, well, yeah, if you kill that boss, you get half a medallion. And then if you get the other half of a medallion from some other random fucking place on the map and go to this other random location and use it, you get access to this entire section of the game that half the people won't ever find. It's like stuff like that that I really love. And it's like, again, it adds to the character of the game where you almost feel
Yeah.
like the world is a character, that it's a part of it.
And it shows that like the open world was actually thought out by the developers. It was a full planned idea, and it wasn't just everyone else is doing it.
I
Let's
feel
make
like,
our
yeah,
own open world.
it's almost like, again, I don't always like to rag on Assassin's Creed because as much as I clown on Assassin's Creed, I do like
But it's
Assassin's
such an
Creed.
easy target.
I like Assassin's Creed. I'm a goopy goblin gamer. If it's not 6 million hours like Valhalla, I'll very happily play it. But it is like Assassin's Creed Unity. Let's use Unity as an example. A game that the internet dislikes, but I have a soft spot for. I actually do really like Unity quite a bit. But you can 100% put my teeth back in. You can 100% tell that from a gameplay perspective and from a world design perspective, they were like, make Paris. We'll come up with everything else later. It's like we'll just make a map for the sake of making a map. We'll put the collectibles in random fucking locations once we've made it. We'll put quests in certain locations once we made it. There's no real thought into, okay, but what do we want from this map? What do we want the experience to be? It's just we need to make Paris. We need to Far Cry 3 or Far Cry. I really like Far Cry 4. Partially because I love Troy Baker and Pagan Min's fantastic, but I really like the world of Far Cry 4. But I'm not gonna lie to you and say, oh, when I think of Far Cry, I think of these maps that are made to be explored and there's things to know. The thing about Far Cry is I'm gonna walk into a random corner of the map and a bear's gonna kill me and I'm gonna shit myself, and that is the Far Cry experience, right? I'm not sitting there going, oh man, Far Cry's open world is just something else, man. I'm not. I'm going, villains are pretty cool. That's why I go to Far Cry.
Yeah.
But you know, anything else we want to talk about? What do you like, Hunter? You've not really been speaking to that much. What do you like when an open world's done right?
So I think having an interesting set of mechanics to engage the world with is a key part of this. Is why Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are so good. That's one of the big strengths of Metal Gear Solid 5, which I thought was doing that the best before Breath of the Wild, where everything, like, you could straight up harass all manner of soldiers in all manner of ways with, inflatable false snakes and boxes that have stupid posters on them and all sorts of stuff that
Yeah.
make just it makes life, when you choose to just troll everybody, really fun. And in the objectives that you actually get, there's like 3 or 4 different ways to usually accomplish most of them. It's always really cool when games give you the ability to do that rather than just, oh, you have to do it this one way, especially when it has the disconnect of like open world game where there's freedom to do whatever you want, and then a main story thing comes in and you can only do it the one way.
Oh, I
That's
hate
not so
that.
great.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like what you're saying is true, where it's like, it's almost like the gameplay complements the world. The amount of times, and 90% of the time, it is in kind of action games like, Ghost of Tsushima, Assassin's Creed, where it's like, they build these stealth sections or whatever, and it's like, oh, how are you going to solve the problem? I'm like, well, there's 2 ways to solve the problem. I either very boringly climb around the entire thing and pick everybody off one by one, or I fail at that, gets detected at some point, and then I just have to fucking mash the attack button and hope that it fucking works. Like, there you go.
Dude,
they're the 2 options.
every enemy camp in Horizon Forbidden West was me chilling out on a cliff or somewhere nearby, shooting a guy, and everyone eventually seeing the dead body and just coming to it's like, this is really boring, but also I like the power trip that comes with not fighting dinosaurs in some respect. Because I'm just destroying these guys with little effort,
And
but
it's
it's not
not
very
like, yeah,
engaging.
it's not like a simple combat system or a simple system in general doesn't complement. It doesn't mean that it has to be complex to complement an open world or anything like that. Big example that I would give, you talked about Spider-Man earlier. Let's go, we clowned on Rocksteady earlier. Let's go back to when I loved Rocksteady's video games. The Batman Arkham games, especially when they went more
Yeah.
open world with Arkham City and Arkham Knight. The Predator system is
Oh,
such
the Predator
a
system was rad.
satisfying system of stealth where it's like, oh, it complements the world so well, just being able to again finally craft these areas. I think it's perfectly fine for an open world game to take singular levels and take them into an enclosed space. I think that is perfectly fine way
Yeah.
of doing game design, is having an open world for your hub things, make people want to do things. Goopy goblin gamer brain, go and do whatever you want, go and scavenge, go do whatever you want. And then, okay, when it's time to focus in, let's make a more enclosed space. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more boring in an open world game than going, your objective is to go over to that bandit camp, shoot out the bandit camp, come back and get your reward. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool, whatever. But if it's like, okay, you've been flying around, hanging out the open world. You then have to solve a stealth puzzle in the open world, say the Arkham games, where you've got to try and get into a building, but there's a load of guards around. Then go into the building for a more localized scenario, and then come back out and then do some other stuff in the open world. I think it's all about that synergy, right? It's all about making it so that the gameplay complements it, whether it is simplistic like the Arkham games, or if it is more complex. You know, say a
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom or a Breath of the Wild, where you are fucking super gluing shit together to make a stupid flying machine or a jet motorbike or whatever have you, right? Um,
A full-on
Or a
mech.
fighter plane.
yeah, or yeah, you know, or yeah, like you say, strapping a core up to your fighter jet as you fly him around and piss about with him. You know, you can do
It's
whatever.
over
Violate
again.
the Geneva
Yeah,
Conventions.
It's over Ganondorf. I'm forklift certified.
sky's the limit. Um,
Uh,
I think that's, you know, a great idea. To be honest, it's like, here's the thing. I don't think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are perfect video games, right? There are
No.
plenty of times
no.
in that game where I'm like, you know, what would be really great right now if we did
If
go into a
if I
linear
didn't
A cool
section,
slip
story.
on if I didn't slip on wet surfaces.
maybe. But you know, maybe I do want to linear it down. You know, I do want to use some stuff, and it's like, yeah, I love the shrines as much as the next bugger does. I did all the shrines in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. I love shrines, but you know, I still think temples didn't do much for me in Tears of the Kingdom, as the same with Breath of the Wild, right? But it's like, I would like something that doesn't that lasts longer than like 20 minutes to do some more linear stuff with this kind of like these kind of puzzle pieces, really.
I wish all of them would have committed to the wind up to the temple as much as it felt like the
The Wind
Rito
Temple.
one did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and every other one was like, I hope you did the wind one first because that one was pretty cool. Eh? Like, but no, I feel like I'm just trying to think. Can I think of any other open worlds that I think are really exceptional at what they do? Did you want to mention Xeno? You talked about
uh,
Xenoblade X, Kyle. Was there anything that you liked from Xenoblade X that you think worked really well as an open world?
I mean, what I really enjoyed about that game is the game, it's all about the exploration. And
Mhm.
I like that the game kind of gradually feeds you what you can use
Mhm.
to traverse the open world. So you just start off, you're just a dude on your feet, you explore the world that way. A few chapters
Classic.
into the game, you get your big robot. A few more chapters after that, you get a flying upgrade to your big robot, which just it trivializes the exploration.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot more interesting. And I think to me that's where open world games kind of are make or break. It's is moving from point A to point B fun, and in a game like Spider-Man or Breath of the Wild, where
Spider-Man does that really well.
yeah, or Tears of the Kingdom, not Breath of the Wild, where you have all these interesting or just fun methods of traversal to interact with the world. That's the stuff that I really enjoy seeing in open world games.
It's interesting because, you know, I hear a lot of times, I hear it on the internet quite a bit, probably because I'm chronically online, but I hear it a lot where people are like, oh, people, how much you use fast travel is a good indication of how good an open world is, blah, 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 or how fun the movement is. And I'm like, not necessarily.
Uh,
When I play Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I'm fucking fast traveling all the damn goddamn time, dude. But
yeah,
Sometimes I just want to be at a place quick.
yeah, it's a very nice idea to be like, oh, I'd be so interested in this that I, fly from one end of the world to the other on my little blimp. But
and
I'm not going to do that if I don't have to.
I'll also
Yeah.
say, I think I remember saying when Miles Morales came out, I've never fast traveled in Spider-Man 1, and I never
No.
fast traveled in Miles. I can tell you for a fact, I did fast travel a couple of times in Spider-Man 2. Because once we were in the third game, I'm like, okay, I do love swinging, but sometimes I do just want to carry on now. Let me unka bunga. Let me get straight to the juice here, because it's the opposite side of the map. It's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with a fast travel system. It's just, how good is traversal in a video game? How
Right.
fun is it to actually go about movement in the game?
hmm And like,
Yeah.
this is another thing. I don't play the game anymore, but Genshin Impact, some of my favorite characters to use in that game were the ones that had the extra like movement traversal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Characters like Zhao and Yelan who could just move faster with their skills. It was nice. It was a convenience thing more than anything.
No, I 100% agree. I feel like it has to be fun to flow through. And I feel like so many open world games don't take that into consideration whatsoever, really. It's
Yeah.
like, here's
Like
the
the
thing.
exploration in Elden Ring was really cool, but the horse was kind of meh.
Here's the thing.
It
One of my favorite open worlds of all time. Well, two of them. I love Red Dead Redemption 1's open world, but my favorite one, probably one of my favorite open worlds of all time, is Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a world that ticks all those boxes that we were saying earlier. It feels like a character. It feels lived in. It feels like a place you want to explore just because of it's a character of the game. It's as much as a
mhm.
character as any actual character in Red Dead Redemption 2. But man, does riding on a horse kind of suck. It's like the movement in that mashing the X button in the classic Rockstar fashion. It's like, I don't enjoy that at all,
Mhm.
really. Turn that cinematic camera on that automatically rides your horse, golden, and you get lovely views and it's great. But sometimes I do feel like movement options draw you out of open worlds. And when you just have to run around, like do the classic Assassin's Creed, the horses were ass, so whoever used a horse in old Assassin's Creed, nobody. So you're just doing the classic Ezio run like that, Hunter knows what, jelly
Yeah,
arms,
run
McGee.
like
Yeah,
run like
yeah.
that. Accidentally climb on some walls that you didn't mean to,
Yeah.
or not even climb, but like run up some walls that you can't climb, and then do it 2 more times because he won't turn.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
dude, I'll be real. I didn't even know there were horses in Assassin's Creed.
They're bad. They're not good horses. They're bad horses. Um, but yeah, it's like sometimes it is fun. Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, especially when you're new to Assassin's Creed, running around on rooftops is kind of fun, doing sick, nasty parkour. It's a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
When you're on your ninth game on it, maybe not as fun. Especially when you're playing a game, sorry to bully you again, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where there's fuck all to do other than ride horse or run. And it's like, here's the thing, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, I basically always walk. I never used my horse in those games. I remember going to the fucking the stable like 20 hours into Tears of the Kingdom for like the first time, and I was like, what's that horse doing there? I haven't ridden a horse. Then find out that it carries your horse over from Breath of the Wild if you have a save. And I'm like, oh, look, it's my horse that I didn't use in the first game that I'm not going to use in the second. Great. Enjoy your time at the stable. Hope you had a good 5 years. Enjoy another 5 in there. I
I
don't
didn't ride
care.
him that much either, but I did like collecting the special ones.
Just stick them in. It's like Pokemon. You stick them in the box and see you
Gotta catch
later.
them
Bye bye.
all.
Doodaloo. Um, I think Pokemon did a terrible job at this as well, really. Let's go Bully Scarlet
What
and
a
Violet.
segue.
Well, yeah, we could just end it on Pokemon did that kind of terribly and then move on. But again, you have this big world. They just give you a fucking bike that doesn't feel good. It's just a bike. It doesn't I feel like I just want things to feel good. You know what I mean? Like I just want to. even if it is a simplistic form of travel, right? Like, people don't like the Batmobile in Arkham Knight, but if it doesn't feel badass when you first start driving that fuck around Gotham for the first time, because it's like, it's like a sports car. The noise is everywhere. You're drifting all over the place. You don't control it very well. You don't give a shit. You're Batman. I don't care. Like, I'm just gonna cruise around in my Batmobile. It feels good.
I didn't
But
like
then,
driving it so much, but like getting enough speed to just launch yourself out of it and then,
oh, the momentum build
glide.
up.
That
Hell yeah,
that
I
was
love
that was a
that.
lot of fun.
And then to bring it back to a more recent game, Gotham Knights, it's got the stupid bat cycle or whatever, but it's like that game doesn't have the fun kind of momentum or anything like that. So you're just driving a shitty bike around. And I'm like, well, this sucks, doesn't it? But it's the only method of transport because everyone's so fucking slow in that game. It's like,
Oof.
yeah, there's some clunky ass movement mechanics in open world sometimes where I'm like, wow, just make it fun, guys. Make it fun. Um,
Before we move on to the more negative things, I feel like
yeah.
Death Stranding is real cool because it makes a game out of just being able to walk.
Yes, and I think that some people dislike it for that very reason.
Yes, but I think it's cool for that, so those guys can suck it.
I like it, but I feel like here's the thing, Hunter. I don't know if you've noticed this. Whenever I look at Death Stranding, people playing Death Stranding or Death Stranding discourse, everyone's always about that balancing. Like, oh, the balancing's super weird, and I'm like, am I the only? I feel like sometimes I'm the only person on the planet that realized if you just hold L2 and R2 the entire time, you never have to do the balancing mini game ever, and you can just carry on cruising because he just holds his straps like a normal fucker would and just carries on
Yeah.
moving. Yeah, you're slightly slow, but you never have to do it. And I'm like, why do we have this discourse like every 2 months? It seems where people are like, why is there a
It's
balance? I'm like,
because it's
just
because
hold it
people are
permanently. You never
chronically
have to do it.
bad at learning how to play a game in a way that would make them like it more.
It just makes me laugh because I'm like, yeah, you just hold it all the time, especially when you're on rough terrain. Just hold both of them like you're a backpacker, and off you go. Just
Yeah.
It's bizarre. But now, anyone else got anything that they want to say towards positives? I know we've somehow managed to cram like half of the positive talk to be nitpicky negatives anyway. But anyone else got a positive before we move on? I can't think of any.
I
No,
don't
I
think
think
so.
I've hit every one of them that I want
Right.
to.
Let's move on then. Why do open world games suck? Let's start off with we talked about it a lot. Fucking checkboxes. I hate checkboxes. I really do not like checkboxes. And mainly, I hate games that feel like they have to cram in content for the sake of cramming in content. You know what I mean? Like if every game was like if I know that Final Fantasy 16 is more semi-open world because it has open zones basically, and then you swap between them, right? But it's like
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 16, man. If only they'd taken out half the side quests that were bad and just left the good ones, what a fucking game that would be, right? I don't need A to B side quests. Oh, Timmy needs this. Can you go give this to Timmy? And then you go to Timmy, and Timmy's like, "Oh, thanks, mate. Can you take this back?" And then you go back, done. And it's like, what's the point? What's the honest to God point of that? I really,
It's because it's what they do for MMOs. It's the
yeah,
same true.
MMO
It's
game
just
design in
you're
single
just
player
not getting
games.
you're just not getting a pair of pants to go with your quest is all.
Oh, it's like, oh, there's so many of these quests that are just not interesting in the slightest. Or it's like, you know, uh, go to point A, kill some guys, good job, go back. I love Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk 2077. I played it for the first time last year. And considering 2023 was a banger year for video games and me playing it, still somehow, if we took all the games, backlog included, Cyberpunk would probably be easily in the top 5 of the games that I played last year. I just had a lot of fun with it. But my God, do half of the side quests in that game just revolve around, hey fella, can you go over here and shoot some guys and then come back? I'd really appreciate it. And then off you go. Shooting's fun in that game, but there's no real um there's nothing really complex or interesting going on there. It's just, hey, how have you built your build? How are you going to be broken in this scenario? So to me, it was, hi, I put all my upgrade stats into crit hits on pistol. So I just had my one pistol. I only used a pistol in the entirety of my Cyberpunk playthrough that just got critical hit headshots and just one shot everybody in the entire game. And I went into like Matrix slow mode every time I aimed. So I literally would just walk into a room, go bam, 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 and then keep walking. And it was great. Had a great time. But there's no content there really. There's nothing interesting going on. What's the point? Most of the
Yeah.
time these can be saved with story, which is good. If you've got a good developer like CD Projekt, for example, who actually do put good lore into every little detail of their game, then yeah, it could be worth it. But if you're playing Assassin's Creed and you're doing the 16th tailing mission, sorry, I do like Assassin's Creed. I'm just gonna say that. When
It
you do
just has so
16th
many
tailing,
bad examples.
when you have
Even
16 tailing
4
missions,
that
it's
I
like it's
quite
annoying.
liked, there was a lot of tailing missions that could have been something different.
They could have been something different. Um, or you've got like Far Cry where it's like eliminate the bases, and it's like, oh, but they're all the same. There's nothing interesting here. One of them will be like, well, we've got a tiger locked up in it, so if you shoot the lock off, you'll let the tiger out, and they'll start killing some people. I'm like, wow, that's riveting. That is.
Yeah,
Thanks for that.
that was the experience with Days Gone was, oh, these are all the same, except sometimes there will be a zombie horde around that I'll be like, oh, hey, come get me, and then sprint through the camp, and then have the zombies eat the people,
And I mean,
and hopefully go away.
some people are built different. Some people love that kind of monotonous grind stuff. I'll admit to it. I used to like it. There was a time in the PS4 generation, like 2015 to like 2018 or whatever have you, where I was perfectly fine with just sitting there and playing an open world game and just doing menial tasks and not caring and just watching YouTube or talking to friends in a party or something like that. Just background noise. I think
Yeah.
there's a place for background noise, whether it's an open world game or you're playing a first person shooter or something. You just, the amount of times I played Call of Duty or a first person shooter just to talk with friends, the game is just the background
Yeah,
noise that no one cares about. I think it's fine. But as we get, you know, I say that coming in 2024, where 2024 is likely to be a quieter year for games. But when we're getting to years where there's just so many games coming out, and now everything wants to be an online open world games as a service, that's like the triple threat of fucking kill me. Like, no, I don't want that. You know, like
yeah.
there's like you say, it's basically MMO, but you have to pay $60 for it every time, and it's not interesting. Like that's the thing. Is everyone like Suicide Squad kills the Justice League? Like, let's be real here. How many
And
people
my
are like,
interest.
yeah, but who's gonna be like, oh, I need to log in this month, lads. I need to play the Joker expansion real
Gotta do
quick.
the battle
Yeah,
pass.
gotta do the battle pass for the Joker season of Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. Like, it's just no. I don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
or like that
No.
game's thematically at odds with who wants to play as a shark and be worried about what stats your pants are giving you.
Well,
You know?
not everyone can wear pants like King Shark can, Hunter. Like, come on now. Come on.
It's true, but
Mm,
that's just one of the things there. Uh, one of the things that always irks me with open world games is when the uh, actual level design very clearly suffers from it. Like, you know, you mentioned earlier with the Batman games and how they have those walled off linear sections for your cool moments. There are games that struggle to do that, where it feels where the big story moments happen in areas that are walled off, but they feel like the same thing, but a little bit bigger.
yeah.
Like, I gave Metal Gear Solid 5 its praise earlier for its mechanics. I feel like its level design definitely suffered from being an open world where all of those camps are very interchangeable. And
Yeah.
sadly, the best one was in Ground Zeroes, where it felt like an actual big designed level.
Yeah.
And the rest of them were your choice of, oh, is this one in Africa or is this one in Afghanistan? Do you like desert or do you like swamp?
I mean, every game, even brilliant open world games, suffer from this. I mean, Zelda. I love the shrines in Zelda. games.
They all look the same.
I
Yeah.
think they all look the same. And let's be real here, Cal, you won't have experienced this as much because there weren't that many in Tears of the Kingdom as compared to Breath of the Wild. But when I went into a shrine and it said a fucking test of strength or something, I knew it was just the shitty fucking boss fight room again. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, what a waste of my time. Thank you. I'm so glad I spent 20 minutes trying to find where the fuck this shrine was just to find out it was a shitty Guardian fight again. Like, that's fantastic. There's like 20 of them, and I'm like, oh my god, how many do we need to do of these? It's all like just boring.
You'll probably find at least one of them before you should reasonably be able to fight it too, so that's always fun.
And I mean, while we're talking about
But
like boring excursions, fucking towers. Let's talk about towers. Why does everything have to be a fucking tower? Why did Assassin's Creed go, let's just climb a building, and everyone else went, write that down, write that down. Far Cry.
it's like, oh, well, the Far Cry makes sense because it's the same people and
No,
they
but hear me out.
struggle to be
It's
creative.
shitter. Yeah, but they made it shitter. Like, it's like, would you like to climb up a fucking telephone tower in first person with broken ladders and all this shit to try and do it? No, I do not want that.
With no parkour mechanic either.
Yeah. Do you think you're Mirror's Edge? Because you're not. Like, why
Yeah.
the fuck? Like, you know, Zelda, I like the tower. I think the towers in Tears of the Kingdom are better than Breath of the Wild, just because
I feel like they made more of a game out of trying to get to the top of them, or
the
Yeah.
puzzle
being able to
the
use
puzzle
them.
was trying to figure out how to get yourself to yeet yourself out of the cannon, not
Yeah.
how do I get to the top of this bugger, which
And
I
Breath
thought
of the
was quite
Wild
good.
had a couple of those, but there weren't many.
No, and it was the most, to me, the
And
towers
also, I
felt
don't
like
think
the
any
most
of them were.
cookie cutter thing.
Yeah, I don't think any of them were much more complicated than, oh, just find a way to get a little higher than the obstacle and glide to it.
Basically, they're not fantastic, but you know, I do not. Yeah, I think the problem with open worlds is a lot of the time you just can't, unless you are like a CD Projekt Red or a Rockstar, you really cannot go, let's spend like 5 to 8 years on a video game and cram this open world full of interesting and unique content. You just can't. When you're a Ubisoft and you're making Assassin's Creed every 1 to 3 years, you're just like, well, we need gameplay structures and we need stuff like that can be repeated and we can do multiple times just to ease development, right? We need these towers to be repeatable so it's easy. We need these combat encounters to be a certain way. We need treasure chests to act a certain way just to make everything more easy to work
Sadly,
with.
there's no Assassin's Creed treasure chest that just teleports you to the other end of the map.
Yeah.
Could you imagine though? Imagine getting to Assassin's Creed Red and being like warped to like, I don't know,
Ohio.
Genghis
Ohio,
Khan's
yeah, that'd be
encampment.
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, Assassin's Creed has done something like that before. You never played Unity, but they had these really weird moments where I can't remember if it was the Animus freaking out or whatever, but you just ended up in World War One in Paris just
Oh.
randomly. Like the
That's
time
kinda
stream
cool.
went all shit, and then you just all of a sudden were in wartime Paris with the bombs dropping and all that. And it's like that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's just you end up with a lot of cookie cutter stuff where it's like every open world does this. This is not just a Ubisoft problem. We'll go to Ghost of Tsushima as an example. How many fox hideaways did you have to do in that game? How many shrines did you have to climb to the top of? How many bamboo cutting did you have to do? How many haikus did I have to fucking write? I don't know why everybody was so fascinated by the haikus, but I was like, I am not in 4th grade, dude. I do not get fascinated by this many haikus. Like, I did not need 26 haikus. And if
Yeah,
you're
it's
like
definitely
Ethan,
one of those things that
yeah.
you get the point of after doing it a couple of times.
And I didn't think half of them were that good, to be honest. And it might have been because half the time I was just mashing buttons. But, you know, it's like, I'm not sitting here going, what is the best line here? It is just, oh, look, there's some water dripping down from the fucking tree. Let's look at that real quick and press the X button. Good job. It's just like, you have to get it filled. And I feel like on the PS3 era of games, it was more forgiving, right? I feel like, again, old Assassin's Creeds, It was 2008. It was 2009. Who fucking cares if I have to do this shit over and over and over again? Let's be real here. All Assassin's Creed games just basically had viewpoints, some contracts, and that's about it, right? Most of the rest was just the main game.
I feel like they didn't add very much more after that is the problem.
No. They just didn't.
They just made more
added
of it.
Shy. Yeah, it was not fantastic.
It's like, what if we had these, but a million of them?
No, 100%. And I think a thing that, like I say, a thing that we didn't talk about too much really was like, again, quests that feel involved in the world, right? Like The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk, those games do really well. Is Red Dead is feeling involved in the world, having quests where I'm like, oh, this only happens in this part of the world. This is what's happening. The dynamic here, I can tell that this area's in poverty just from, not even from the way it looks, just from the way the characters act and the people that are involved there. Like, I love that stuff. Whereas you go to an Assassin's Creed, who fucking cares, mate? Like, I genuinely don't give a shit. I liked Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Could I tell you any other character apart from Cassandra and Alexios? Because those were the two main characters. No, I can't tell you shit about that game. Same with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I played that this time last year. I know there's Ivor. I can't even remember what your brother's called. I think it begins with an S. I don't remember. This is like, it's all forgettable storytelling. I just much prefer a good story to be told. That would be great. Kyle, you have a lot of gripes with open world games.
I do.
What have you got for us? What have you got?
I think probably the biggest one for me is when a game touts itself as you can go anywhere, do anything, only to then when you try going anywhere and doing anything to get immediately curb stomped by something higher level than you. This was you brought up Pokemon earlier. When I played through Scarlet and Violet, I think it was after the first gym I had gone the wrong way. I didn't know it was the wrong way, so I ended up in the 4th gym's town by mistake. And I go to challenge the gym leader, and I'm like, oh, they're 20 levels above me right now. I guess I'll just eat shit and go another way.
Yeah,
and like,
I hated that.
This is just the thing with Pokemon I really want it to do is just scale the gym leaders to your level, scale their teams to your level. But that's a Game Freak thing, and they're never going to do that.
Not even scale to your level. What I thought they were going to do is...
They don't have Time Hunter.
What I thought they were going to... Honestly, yeah, they do hate you, Carl. The one thing I thought they were going to do was, let's say, for 8 gyms, 8 different teams based on what the order is. That's what I would do. So it's like, okay, here's your... If this is the first gym you go to, here's what the first gym fight will be. And do that for all 8, so then you can play them in any order, and you'll still have those moments where it's like, oh shit, I'm level 12 right now, and gym 2 is level 19 or whatever. I need to still have that grind. But it doesn't matter what. So I can go, okay, let's use my brain here. Let's use my big, massive giga brain and go, okay, I started with a fire type. Maybe I want to get the water gym out of the way pretty early, just so that I don't have to do, or maybe I want to save it for later. Maybe I want to go to the grass gym first because I know I'm going to easily be able to stomp that, and then I'll do the water gym later when I've got a full party and I don't have to worry about type weaknesses that much, you know? Right. Whereas that game really is just like, yes, it's open and you can do anything in any order if you want to fucking grind or otherwise find the correct path, dumbo. Like, off you go.
Like, this around like a year ago when the game had come out, I saw someone put out a video that was getting to the 8th gym leader first. And it's like, all right, you're here. That's cool. The gym leader's still level 60 or whatever. So what's the point? It's cool that you can do that, but also why?
It's like back in people would be like, oh, do the water temple before the fire temple in Ocarina of Time. Like, okay, but why? Who cares?
I do feel the only game that really does kind of give you that experience of go anywhere, do anything to the extent of its boundaries is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because that game doesn't have the walled off area of here's the level 50 fuckers that have got a health bar you can't even touch like Ubisoft. That's one thing. Yeah. Let's talk about that while we're fucking at it. Back to Assassin's Creed. Get the dead horse out. I've got my bat.
Do better.
Yeah. Why the fuck Do we have areas where it's like, it's an open world, go anywhere, do anything, but this area is power level 50 and you're power level 20, so if you go over there, not only will you do less damage because they're stronger than you, we'll actually make it so that you do fuck all damage, so you can't even go there. What's up with that? Like, at least make it go, okay, power level 60 and you're level 20, you can go for it, but it might be a challenge. Why not just let me have that
Yeah,
challenge instead of just going, nah,
it's
this
like
is actually what we call a soft gatekeep, where it looks like you
Yeah.
can go and do stuff, but you can't, because that's fun. Or again, Assassin's Creed. I hate power levels in open world games. Can we get rid of fucking power levels? Unless you want to be an actual an RPG and have stats and all that jazz. I don't fuck with power levels, dude. Just get them out of here. Like, why? I am an assassin. I have a sword. Why does my sword take 60 fucking hits to kill somebody? Do I, like, I don't give a shit about realism in video games, to be honest, but even I can go, this is taking the mick when I'm swinging my sword and stabbing someone 100 times and they won't die. Like,
it's
it's
like
just
imagine if it
dumb.
was like God of War or something, and you could like do Kratos' thing where you rip them in half or whatever, but they don't actually rip in half. It just looks like you do it.
You,
It's another layer of their body
you do it and they get a paper
instead.
cut, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like, wow, that's great. It's so dumb. I hate it. I just wish that I've never understood that really. I've always hated how old Assassin's Creed games would like be like Animus desyncing. You can't go to that bit of. I'm like, at least let me have a walk around. I'm sure Ezio at one point in his life, in his 20s, walked around the other 2/3 of Florence. Maybe. Just thinking about that. You're telling me he didn't. You're telling me he didn't go over the bridge until he was 35? I don't believe you. Like, come on. Let me go and have a walk around. Just let me have a gander in your world. Again, great games like great open worlds, like Red Dead Redemption, like Breath of the Wild, like Cyberpunk, like The Witcher 3. Are there areas where you'll be over leveled and like under leveled and stuff like that? Are there power levels? Yes. Can you at least go and have a fucking walk around and the game won't tell you off and tell you to fucking
Mm.
eat shit basically? No, you can still go walk around. Yeah, you might not do that much damage. Or usually the way I prefer it is enemies are still manageable, but they'll fucking destroy you. I think that's a better way of going
Mhm.
about it. Don't make them bullet sponges. Let them insta kill me and feel regret. A bit like Elden Ring. You know, let me
Yeah, that
feel
was one thing.
pain.
Uh, not necessarily an open world game, but the levels were big. Was with Baldur's Gate.
Mm.
Challenging something that's stronger than you is always was always a fun little risk reward thing where it's like, oh, I could try and like stab this guy who's got his legion of robots that could murder me right now, and I could potentially successfully stab him, score the critical hit, and then stab him again because that's what I'm able to do, and then run away.
You
But
could, but
also,
will it work?
it's very likely that if I'm going to stab him once, and then the robots are going to smash me.
Oh, they would.
Oh,
100%.
As someone who tried the stabbing route, they
I've, I
would.
I did both things. Don't worry. I one time had success and one didn't.
That's fair.
But it's that kind of thing where, being able to the idea that you can and that it's possible without doing something completely ridiculous. Like, oh, you have to very specifically go to this point of the room and stand here for 3 million seconds while
Only
you
3 million? That's pretty good.
while you chip away at this thing that you're doing 2 damage to
No,
is not enticing even if
no.
you can technically do it.
If. Big if. Yeah, I really do hate it where I hate level scaling. Can we also, if you are going to do this power shit, let me have my power fantasy then. What is it with games like Assassin's Creed, again, back to you, you naughty, naughty video game, where, oh, okay, we're going to make it so that every region of the game has a power level. This one's power level 50, this one's the power level 280 or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So how come now, now I'm 280, I can go and fight those bad boys? How come now when I go back to the 50 land, they're also all 280? Why can I not go over there and then bully them
Was it all
again?
level scale one direction? What?
Yeah, again, that's what that again. Bring it back down. It's like, oh, if I go to Elden Ring, I want to go and bully those people that bullied me at the start. Let me go bully.
Yeah, it
Let me
feels
Yeah.
go.
good. Like
Let
in
me go tell
Bloodborne,
those
it felt
goats
real
who's
good to
who.
walk through
Yeah.
the the goats didn't do anything wrong.
But no, a
But
lot of it, like a lot of games like Assassin's Creed will be like, oh yeah, we'll scale enemies to your level, but it's like, oh, you can turn a setting on if you want to bring everybody up or whatever to make it more challenging. I'm like, why would you want to do that? Why is that a feature? I don't want people to come up with me. I want to beat
Yeah.
the shit out of people. I want to feel like I've earned, like I've. If you're gonna make me grind, let me at least get that power fantasy of feeling overpowered. Don't go then.
Mhm.
is it
Nah.
Like, this isn't an open world game, but Kingdom Hearts 2 had damage scaling, which is what made the level 1 playthrough even possible. Basically, every world had a battle level, but and but if you were the game saw that you were too far below the level, it would scale your damage up so that you're not doing chip damage
Hmm.
to
The
everything,
chip
and
damage
the game was
can
actually
suck it.
fun.
Yeah, I hate
yeah.
chip damage so
Uh
damn much.
Metal Gear Solid 5 did this thing. It's kind of the reverse of um denying you your power fantasy. If you employ the same method over and over again, which, which would imply like you're kind of going on a power trip the first several times, they'll start adapting to what you do. Like if you score a bunch of headshots and come in the blanket of night, they'll start wearing helmets and have flashlights on said helmets, for example.
Wait, that's
Uh
really clever.
where suddenly they'll survive a shot and it'll alert people and all that. So that's a really cool alternative to that, where it's like, oh, things might be getting a little too easy and you're doing the same thing, so we'll change it up here. We see
Hmm.
you. I think that's a better way to do it than just haha, now everyone hits harder even though they
Yeah.
didn't 10 hours ago.
And again, like that makes the world feel more alive. Your enemies are responding to your actions.
Yeah.
Bring it up. The Nemesis system. It's a shame that they fucking
It's
copyrighted
a
that so
shame that
nobody could
nothing
ever use it.
interesting could ever take it.
But man, was it used very well in one video game and then never
Yeah.
used again. That's kind of
It's too
crazy.
bad that game isn't
Uh,
that interesting outside of that system.
true. Yeah.
It's like I would love if Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild would have like it would be great to have a Bokoblin kill you and then like rank up to the next, I don't know, color or become a boss Bokoblin.
Thank you. I killed Link. I'm now going to change my entire being.
Yeah, he just
The
levels up and
Goblin
he
is
goes from
evolving, dude.
he-
Do.
yeah, exactly. And then the next time you see it, it just does some kind of insulting interpretive dance at you.
Hell yeah, that
You
sounds
know,
epic, dude.
that
That
would have
sounds
been so.
great.
It would be so cool if like games that were actually interesting got to apply that.
You know, I feel like again with open worlds, I think one of the things that really irks me, that bugs me with them a lot of the time when I'm playing them, especially when they're long, is when they don't value your time. It's
Hmm.
like that's what really bothers me. Where it's like Cyberpunk, I played that game for 80 hours, but there wasn't the first 10 hours or so, I really wasn't vibing with it, but I feel like that's a pacing issue more than anything. But there was never a point in Cyberpunk where I was playing it, and same goes for Witcher 3 and Red Dead and all these other great open worlds, where it didn't value my time, where it didn't respect me as a player. All this optional stuff I was doing because I wanted to, because it was fun and it was interesting. The quests were interesting. These side characters actually meant something. They went through quest lines. There were whole quest lines that just came out of random conversations that would last 3 or 4 quests, and it was a whole little mini arc that you could go on with a character. And I
Yeah,
hate when games don't respect your time, and it is just here's 300 collectibles and a bunch of shitty side quests, which is just, oh look, it's Derek. Derek wants this thing that you can get from this cave. Go to the cave and kill a thing. Oh, you got it. Off you go back. It's like there's nothing interesting there. There's no narrative that wants to pull me through the rest of the quest. There's no actual gameplay substance to make me want to do it. There's just nothing there. It's just busy work. What's the
this
point of
is
busy work?
this is a thing that Days Gone did that kind of very much spit in the face of your time. Was So you'd get a because there's, like, no real way, from what I recall, to actually just straight up golden path that game because you get most of your quests like, the main quest comes via, like, pieces of the other quests. It's super annoying
Oh, good.
that way, but also, to add to the annoyances, like, people will never tell you what they want while you're already in their camp. You always gotta be, like, out on the road, and then they'll walkie-talkie you and be like, "Hey, come back here so I can tell you what I want
I
you
hate
to
when
do."
games do that. Really
And
frustrating.
it's so annoying because I'll, like, do that, and I'll be like, "Okay, now I'm gonna go do this." And then someone else will be like, "Hey, come back here so I can tell you it was where I just was." Or they'll
No,
wait
then don't.
until
Yeah, fuck
it's
that.
like impossible to get, like, a list of things to go and do and come back for rather than and they're just giving you one at a time, or they'll wait until y asking you to
Yeah.
do something that you were just doing while you're on the way back from doing it.
Yeah, fuck it. It's Cyberpunk does the same thing. It's one of my main gripes with Cyberpunk is all of the quests with like recurring characters are all on a time system where it's like, okay, you have to wait so many in-game hours before they'll call you to progress the story. But if you do main quests and stuff like that, it fucks with the timers. So you'll end up with a backlog. So it's like, oh, if you've got 5 quests or something that need to come through on a phone call, it'll just pick one of them at random, and then it'll restart the timer. So it's like, okay, then you got to wait another 24 hours, and another one will come through, and you're just sitting there waiting, going, I don't know when I'm going to be able to start this quest back up again. I want to hang out with Judy. Let me carry that story on. But I'm just sitting there going through the menus, waiting through time to go, can I get this to trigger, please? Why am I having to get this to trigger? It's really dumb. I don't like it. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I always feel like there's always this, when people talk about valuing time, I always, it always comes back to this conversation of people, length of games, how long a game is or whatever. And I don't ever, I feel like there's this kind of misnomer where it's like a lot of people equate a really long game to not valuing your time. And
Nah,
it's not
man.
necessarily that thing. Like I say, there are
Yeah.
games like, there are plenty of JRPGs, plenty of extremely long JRPGs that I think value your time extremely well. I will always say this. People always go, oh, when I've talked to friends before where they don't want to play Persona, especially Persona 5, because it was the only modern one. Now we have 3 and we can go, there you go, there's a 60-hour version of it. That seems better, doesn't it? But when you try to convince people to play Persona 5 and you say that it's an 100-hour JRPG and they're like, I don't have time for it. And I'm like, trust me, Persona 5 in its 100 hours respects your time far more than a majority of 30-hour open world games do. It's
Assassin's
Yeah.
like,
Creed.
some of the
Days
Assassin's
Gone.
Creed do value your time. It's just not many of them really. It's the earlier ones because they were shorter. You could beat an Assassin's Creed back like in 18 hours back in the day. Now it's
Oh,
Yeah.
the
80.
good old days.
Yeah.
Or like 4 didn't even take me that long.
No, yeah, Assassin's Creed 2, you can probably beat Assassin's Creed 2 in like 12, 14 hours if you just main path it, because you can main path those games perfectly fine. And that's the
Yeah.
main chunk of the game. But it's like Cyberpunk, The Witcher 3, Red Dead 2, 100-hour games. You can play those games forever and ever. But again, it respects your time with the quality of the product. There are so many games that are just open worlds for the sake of open worlds, or just have random side quests and all this random garbage that just are thrown in for the sake of it. And the game would almost be better if you took it out, because then at least it's like, okay, that's 10 hours of shit that I don't feel like I'm required
Yeah.
to do if I have OCD brain like I do.
I
You
feel
just
like
make it
Ghost of
better.
Tsushima is a good example of once you cut through the, prettiness of the world, it would have been better as a more, scaled down 20-hour game.
Yeah.
100%.
Or, like, there are just other kinds of games that I don't really see any value in blowing up to be an open world, like, structurally, it would not make a lot of sense to make an open world Devil May Cry game.
That's another thing I
Could you
hate.
imagine, though?
Yeah.
Oh
That's that,
god.
it's one thing it's another thing that I hate is making a thing open world for the sake of making an open world game. Is why did we have luckily, well thankfully, it's started to slow down a bit more. People
Mhm.
aren't as kind of wanting to do this, but it's like we had that era of why was Mirror's Edge Catalyst an open world game? Why did we have to
Like
make Mirror's Edge
mid
open world?
mid gen PS4 was like the worst with this,
Yeah.
where
When
everything
Beyond
was
Good and
just
Evil 2 was announced, that a game that will never release, why were they like, oh yeah, Beyond Good and Evil, that game that people loved, let's make an open world game out of that. Let's do that. Can we go and do
like
that?
that's one of the big criticisms I always had with The Evil Within was that they made their thing like a semi open world kind of game, and I was like, this takes away from the stress of being trapped in like cramped corridors with these guys. And like the best parts of the game were always when it would be like the main story things where everything would be more claustrophobic, and you know, I couldn't just sidestep a group of monsters by turning around and running left for 10 seconds.
Hmm. I don't know. Again, and it's one of those things, right? Is if we get back to what originally sparked this topic of Final Fantasy VII Remake versus Rebirth, going from an extremely linear game with open chapters, three of them to be precise, and one of them isn't really open because chapter 9 does make you go down a path regardless. Like, that is just what you do with that chapter, right? To then having this more open game, and it's like, okay, makes more sense in the context of the story. It makes sense because that's when the game opened up, so it makes sense from a
Yeah.
perspective. But that's what I'm
Mhm.
really interested in is I've heard people say there's a lot of checkboxes, there's a lot of side stuff, and it does kind of alarm bells start ringing in my head. Not because I don't think I'm gonna like it. I think I'm gonna like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth quite a bit. I was a big fan of Remake. It was my game of the year for 2020, and I liked a lot of games in 2020. I think I'll be
Yeah.
fine with it. But it does make me go, how am I gonna lie? Like, where am I gonna lie on this scale, right? Because I feel like Final Fantasy VII is the perfect world where it can make superfluous bullshit of an open world fun. Like, it genuinely could. I like the combat. There's goofy characters. Like, if there's a side quest in the random part of the open world involving Johnny just pissing about and
Yeah,
getting into
Johnny or
trouble, that'll be
Roche or
great.
something.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Like, you know, if there's suddenly like, I don't know, a dozen race challenges with Roche where you're racing his motorcycle versus your super chocobo. That's the kind of dumb nonsense I would like enough to be like, okay, I usually wouldn't do this, but
It's all
let's go.
it's
You
gonna
son
all
of a
be
bitch,
about that
I'm in.
quality.
And yeah, the reason I'm not so worried is because like this is what the original game would have been if that's what they were able to do at the time. Like, as far as getting to the main bits of the story, if that's all you want, I don't think it'll be much harder than going from, you know, spot to spot around the world like you did in all the PS1 Final Fantasy games, where it was,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
you've got this big map as connective tissue, but you're pretty much just running for 4 minutes while you get to the next town or area of importance.
Yeah, but
I did, yeah.
here's where my kind of like apprehension comes into that, Hunter, is that
The yellow paint.
going from point A to point B on on the overworld map in original FF7 took 4 minutes. I f- and knowing how the FF7 remake team bloated all of the areas in remake, I feel like going from point A to point B in Rebirth is going to take an absurdly long amount of time. Again,
Yeah.
I'd love to be proven wrong on that, but
I think,
that's just where my
yeah.
mind goes to.
My
I think
thing
my
is, I
main
think they'll
concern.
be able to make it interesting enough going from whatever spot to the next spot the first time, and then you'll just
Mhm.
be able to jump back and forth probably.
Here's my concern:
That would be
is
nice.
replay. Because here's the thing about Final Fantasy VII Remake is I love Final Fantasy VII Remake. I have replayed the Final Fantasy VII Remake about 6 times in the past. How many years is it? 4 years that it's been out, right?
Pretty much for you.
To quote Tim
Fucking
Rogers,
mad
I
lad.
drank the Final Fantasy VII Remake with a milkshake straw, dude. I have literally played every single fucking side quest, every single mini game, countless times in that game. I have seen far too much of it, some might say. I love the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I love how replayable it is because of how linear it is. You can just go through the story, go through the motions. I don't feel like doing those side quests. Fuck them off. There's that few side quests, and most of them are really good and have some fun dialogue to them that I want to go and replay them. I think my fear is Rebirth fundamentally is still structured like Remake, where I'm sure the hard mode is locked behind having to do a whole playthrough first, and I'm sure there's going to be a shit ton of content to be doing. And then I just don't know if, because it's an open world, am I just not going to like it as much? Am I not going to, I'm going to be like, I had a great time. That's fantastic. But put it in my open world shelf of, never touch it again, off you go.
Yeah.
Whereas Remake to me has been a game where I have constantly replayed it every year or so since it came out because I really love it
Mhm.
that much.
And
That's my
that's
main
saying a lot
worry.
for you because
I
you
don't
aren't
replay
a
games.
game replayer.
Not really. Unless I'm stupid and playing Persona 5 again or Persona game
Yeah.
again, yeah. It's very rare for me to replay games, and I have played 7 Remake to death. And it's,
Mhm.
it happens once every couple of years. I mean, Resi 4 was the exact same way last year, but
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
some games hit me like that, and I'm scared that Rebirth might not hit the same way. Where I'm like, oh, that's fun, but in the same way of bringing back that conversation of Elden Ring to Bloodborne, I'd much rather play Bloodborne because I just want. If I want to go through the motions, I just want to go through the motions. I don't want to do the fucking. I don't want to have steps to go through it. I don't want to.
It's true.
Whereas
Yeah.
Rebirth is going to be this huge game. I think it's interesting because I think fundamentally just shifting to an open world layout drastically changes the way that this game will be played. And I think
Mhm.
as a trilogy, it's very interesting because, we're
This
going to
usually
be
doesn't happen like unless it's a series that's been going on for a long time. Not in the same way that not like how Final Fantasy not that's not what I mean, but like, you know, you get my point.
Yeah.
remakes
It
aren't
doesn't
often
it
done in
does
multiple parts and changing
yeah.
genre as we go.
Yeah. Like jumping it's like jumping from it'd be like if Resident Evil 3 was suddenly open world or whatever after 2. That kind of thing doesn't happen.
And I think it's going to be interesting because I think there are always going to be people who where part one of the Final Fantasy remake trilogy is their favorite. That's always going to
Yeah.
happen. It's always going to be that way because whether it's because we're blinded by just the kind of the initial reaction to it, how everybody freaked out. If all these changes to the story don't go anywhere in the end, people will be caught to, oh, remember when we were thinking all this stuff and when we felt like this, they'll have emotions attached to the original remake. But when you look at the way the rest of the game plays out and we look at part 3, it's more likely that part 3 is going to be more similar to part 2 than it is to part 1. Part 1 is going to be more of
Mm.
an oddball, not an oddball necessarily, but I assume that 1 is going to be the most linear and is going to be the most different out of the 3. I assume a lot of the DNA, in the same way that a lot of the DNA of 1 has been transferred to 2, where it's like, okay, we've done a lot of the base work on characters and engine, now we need to make an open world. I'm sure part
Mhm.
3 will be like, we've made an open world, now we just need to add extra sections and do all this like all this stuff that needs to be completed. But
It's
it's going to be
interesting.
interesting.
I think 3 might end up being this kind of like half step between the two of them if we assuming that like 1 and 2 or remake and rebirth are like two ends of an extreme here. I think
Yeah.
part 3 reckoning or whatever they decide to call it is going to be like um in the middle of the spectrum in some kind of way.
It's going to be interesting. I think it's like I say, it's never been done before where we're having a remake being done in the trilogy, and then just because of where they cut it off, the first part was so heavily linear because of where they left off, and then going, oh shit, yeah, this is where the jump happens, so it's technically a completely different genre. Um, it's going to be interesting. I think here's my prediction: is I think that Rebirth is going to be a messier game, and I don't necessarily mean that to its detriment. I think it's going to be less refined. It's going to have more ups and downs, I think, than Remake just by its nature. There are going to be
Mhm.
moments where
There's going to be a
if
lot
you
more low points.
you've got Goopy Goblin gamer brain, you might be stuck doing shitty side quests that you don't want to be doing, and any sane
But
person will be
the
like off
interesting
to the main
thing
story.
is just kind of glancing at the reviews, it's funny because it kind of sounds like the case. But for some reason this game is reviewed higher by the numbers.
Yeah. Which is
It's
bizarre
weird.
to me because
It's weird
people
because like
bitched about Final Fantasy 16's side quests, rightfully
the
so
weird
in some
thing is
extent.
like I haven't like fully absorbed any particular conversation about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth
Mm,
yet because I don't care to until I play the game.
Yeah.
yeah,
But just at the kind of the glance or the static around it sounds more mixed than like
the score
remake.
suggests. Yeah,
Remake was like sounded glowing from the beginning.
it was universally loved. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's weird that this one's more like, you know, some things are. You'd think the scores would be flipped if you were to just.
I feel like everyone's going crazy though, and people are doing like people will always be like that's the thing is you know you've got half the people going, oh, they're changing the story too much, and then you've got other reviews that are saying they're not changing the story enough. I was expecting more, and people. I don't like the open world. I think it's a massive checkbox. I'm loving the open world because it gives me so much freedom and there's so much good stuff that's going on. It's like you're just getting polar opposite opinions from everybody. So it's like
Yeah.
the only way you're gonna figure out how you feel about the game is
Is to play it.
playing it. Which
Yeah.
shock! I can't believe I'm giving this industry secret away, guys. The only way you'll truly find out if you like a game is if you play it your fucking self, because that's
Oh,
just
that's the wrench in the plan of most JRPG fans, though.
yeah.
You mean I
Well,
can't just regurgitate a YouTuber's opinion?
I mean, don't worry. I'm sure someone has already recorded the ending cutscene to Seven Rebirth, so you can watch it on day one, guys. I'm sure you can go and do that.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
But I think it'll
It's
be
times
interesting.
like these that I'm glad that YouTube recommendations don't apply to me because I turn the history of the off.
I mean, even still, my YouTube won't be telling me Final Fantasy VII Rebirth spoilers. Not that I'm scared of Final Fantasy Rebirth spoilers. If I'm honest with you, it's not one of those games where I'm like, the spoiler is, does the thing happen or does it
Yeah,
not?
yeah, the spoiler's a
Yeah.
binary path, so it's like, well, okay.
I guess the final thing to ask, guys, is obviously we're 1 week away. This is it now. This is the last podcast. By well, I guess we still won't know what happened by next week. But this is the final one where we've got no opinions on the game, no biases, no anything. Final question for the panel today.
Oh boy.
We've got one. It's one final time trying to place your bets. We're gonna do it right here, guys. The end of Rebirth. Does it happen or not? Does the thing happen or not? We're locking in our bets right here. So, spoiler alert: if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII, or you don't know the most iconic spoiler of all time in video games,
The I am your father of video games, yeah.
God, I
time to
want to live
sign
in
off.
your brain.
Thank you for listening and watching. We love you. See you next week. Okay, you gone? Good, cool. So place your bets now. Lock it in. Does Aerith die in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? I've got mine already locked in, but I'll let one of you two pick first.
I'm gonna say yes.
Hunter?
No.
I'm also locking in yes. I think
Yeah.
the things around it will be different. I think something will happen that's different around it, but I think they'll keep it.
Yeah, this is a
Is
very
it
like
still
50. This is a 50-50 no here. Like,
to me? I'm like, is it still Final Fantasy VII if they keep her alive? I feel like they'll do some kind of. I think they'll keep it timey wimey where it's like something different's completely happened around it, or and also or Aerith's still alive in Zack's universe or whatever. What's happening there? Blah 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 blah. But I feel like the answer is yes.
you see, even my no here is like no, but it wouldn't stick through the rest of the third game. Like, no, but she
At the
dies.
start of the third game.
No, but she dies before the end of 3 sometime,
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, that's the thing, Hunter. Is all these reviews came out, and yet all anybody can talk about is Tifa's new swimsuit. So it's like we're fine. We'll be fine. No one cares. Everyone's
I can't
just.
believe no one's talking about Barrett's absolutely dapper sailor
We've seen
suit.
him in his sailor suit before. That's why everyone was like,
Yeah, but it looks super slick.
"Hey,"
Look
I
at
was like,
him.
"Hey, the overly buff training guys are back with their stupid mini games. I'm fine with that. That was sick. I loved those guys. He was great." It just seems to me that they've just turned the Golden Saucer into Chapter 9 Part 2 and have brought every single character back, and I'm perfectly fine with that, to be honest.
Were they Golden Saucer?
Yeah, the
Oh,
weightlifting mini game's back, and it looks like it's the same guys, like the Tifa, but
oh.
the Final
You
Fantasy
see,
VII
I
90s
thought
training montage.
I
Yeah, it's
thought
great.
I thought I saw the clip of her doing like sit-ups or something
She is, and I looked in the
on the
background, and
beach
it
was
looks
the
like, well, yeah,
Yeah, I
it
thought that
might be
was
the beach
Costa
instead.
del Sol.
Yeah, Costa del Sol, but they're back anyway. They're bringing back basically everyone from Chapter 9 is just coming back, which is good because that's the best chapter. So good job, guys. Good job. But no, I mean, I'm surprised you noticed on there. Like I say, all anybody who noticed was Tifa's new outfit, which that sparked a fun debate, didn't it?
What are your guys' thoughts on it?
What
I'm not a
Tifa?
fan.
it's fine. It's fine. I don't
Um,
shoulder
I
shrug.
have, well, I do have, I have no comment other than
Coward.
Tifa's hot. What do you want me to say, dude? Like, yeah,
Her outfit's
I want
cool.
your opinion.
Eris's outfit is cool.
nah, Eric
Barrett's
can fuck
sailor suit.
off. I'm definitely a Tifa person, but I'm not online enough to admit that on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like that's me. It's like I'll look respectively from the background, guys. No, I like a new outfit. I was like, yeah, that's fine. But this is the problem with Tifa in general is she's hot regardless. Like you can literally like she could just show up in pajamas and the internet would be like, that's it, that's our girl right there. We love it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fair play because she is great. Just, I really like Tifa as a character in general, to be honest. So I'm just like, yeah, win's a win. So there you go. Whatever. Although the like I say, the discourse, that's fantastic. I love it. Why? Why does every other JRPG get flack, but Final Fantasy VII's fine? And I'm like, who cares? Just live your life. If you're fine with other things, you live your life. Twitter isn't the real world, kids. You don't have to worry about other people's opinions on the internet. You're good.
Yeah.
But also, like, Tifa is, like, the most normie. Like I say, we're talking about, this is, like, the Star Wars of video games. Final Fantasy VII is the Star Wars of video games, okay? Like, Tifa is the Princess Leia. If you thought about all the cringe, like, teens in the 80s who had, like, slave Princess Leia posters or whatever, like, Tifa is that equivalent for the 90s in video games. Like, that is just the equivalent,
That's
okay?
true. It was either that or Laura Croft.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're both fantastic, and I like both characters, but not for the reasons the internet does. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I appreciate it. But anyway,
I hope
next
they
week.
give Red 13 like a sun hat or something. That'd be funny. Could you imagine?
I can't wait to see him on his Segway. I can't wait. It's gonna be great. But yeah, next week.
Standing up on two legs.
Yeah, next week we'll talk all about it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is here. We'll have played it for quite a bit, I imagine. It's out on Thursday, if you were unaware.
Yeah, you could get a jump start on the first couple of hours with the demo.
If you want to, if you're a weirdo.
Yeah.
I usually would, but I don't have time. I'm still not even going to be finished with Persona, so I was like, I don't know if I should.
I mean, I've literally shotgunned through all of the other smaller games I was playing before Persona came out, so
well,
I
good
might
for
do
you.
that now.
Why don't you finish Persona for me while you're fucking out here, then, you little nerd?
Sure, pass the sticks.
Do a Kyle?
No, he's going to be too busy finishing Rebirth for me.
That's true. You wish.
Oh man.
Thanks, best buddy.
It'd be
Kyle's like,
hilarious if that was.
I don't know.
Imagine if your roadblock was like at the same percentage of the way through the game
I don't
as
know.
it was for remake.
Who knows
Be
what the
like,
roadblock
okay,
this
fine,
time will be.
Fine, I'll do this one so you can finish
What
it.
will- yeah.
Jeez.
What will be the worst part of the game? That'll be the real question. Who knows?
Hojo will have another lab somewhere.
Probably.
No.
He probably will, and it'll probably suck. I did think it was really
Yeah,
funny
so-
because people
Costa del Sol.
People are obviously really buzzing about Costa del Sol at the moment. I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if in hindsight it's the worst part of the game and then everybody looks back at it with anger? I'd be like, that'd be pretty funny. Imagine
would
if
be
everyone hates
funny.
the Golden Saucer because Square forces you to do 16 mini games in a row. Wouldn't that be funny? Like, just stuff like that. Just,
I mean, like, I don't know if I'm misremembering, but Costa del Sol was like barely a part of FF7.
yeah, but here's
There was
thing,
the boss fight like on the boat on the way to it or whatever, and then you kind of just walked around and talked to people.
Yeah.
which to
left.
me, Kyle,
It was such a nothing part, which means
Which
it's going to be
screams to me
bloated to
it's
shit
gonna be, yeah.
in this game.
No, I don't think it's going to be like that, but I think they'll take somewhere like Costa del Sol, which is somewhere that's very little, like very minimally utilized, and they'll go, like I say, the training mini games from from the original remake are going to be there. I think that's going to be a very much an area where they're like, what's the fun stuff people liked in remake? Here's a chance for us to bring characters back and do some fun stuff that just lets us kind of vibe with
Yeah.
it.
Rather than having the golden saucer be like one of the only places you can go to get mini games, you could get other silly stuff elsewhere if you want.
Ride those segues to infinity and
Yeah.
beyond, dude. It's going to be fun. Who knows?
Calm.
Maybe Johnny will be there. We'll be vibing. Me and Yuri alone full. Hunter will disconnect from the chat. It's all good, you know. Look at that face, dude. Mate, look at that face. Should I make that the thumbnail? Oops, and he's gone and back.
I can't believe right at the end. That's
Oh well.
stupid.
You know, well, we should have stopped 10 minutes ago and then it would have been fine. It's all good. But yeah, next week, Rebirth is here. We'll talk all about it. I'm sure we'll have played some of it, at least. I'm taking time off again, so, you know, I'll be vibing. You know how well that went with Persona. Everybody else still finished it before I did, so, you know, I'm feeling pretty good, guys, with my chances. I'll get a good couple of hours ahead, and then they'll both storm past me. Even if Cal doesn't finish it, he'll still storm past me at some point. So, you know,
it's make sure to take your vitamins before your day off.
Oh, it's what? So I don't die? That'll be a good idea, then.
Eat your Wheaties.
Yeah. No, I think my plan is because this one is launching at midnight, like a normal game instead of Persona. I'm just gonna stay up and play it for 6 hours, and then if I am sick, at least I got 6 hours in. You know, like just vibe.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
But yeah. Anyway, our links are on screen right about now. You can go and follow us on Twitter if you want to keep up to date with what we do outside of the podcast. Like I say, we got Rebirth next week, and then we've got some quiet times ahead of us as we pray for video games to release.
Yeah.
Maybe something will come out.
It's too bad. It's too bad Rebirth is going to be so long. Otherwise, Unicorn Overlord would be one I pick up, but it's going to wait.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting year, right? I love that Elden Ring and fucking Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance are gonna fight for the same day. That sounds like a good fight.
Oh no, they're servicing different audiences. It doesn't matter.
Nah, yeah, but even I feel like even Shin Megami Tensei fans might forget that comes out when it comes out, because, you know, like it's an interesting one. Oh well, Nvidia leak is right once again. Where's the 9 remake, guys? Where's the 9 remake? It's only a matter of time. You know, when I saw that Shin Megami Tensei trailer, it reminded me that I own Shin Megami Tensei 5. That made me remember that I bought it
for a Christmas present, and
I bought it and I played it for about 2 hours and went, I don't like this. It runs like ass and it's boring. And then I never gave it a chance. And now I see it coming to like PC and PS5 and Xbox Series X, and I'm like, wow. Don't run like ass anymore. Might still think it's boring as shit, but at least it don't run like ass anymore. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Good for it, dude. Good for it. Anyway, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so be sure to tune in. But yeah, until then, have an awesome week. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Toodaloo.